My husband's best friend sexualized our daughter at her sweet 16, and my husband continues to defend him. Please help. Me and my husband never have any big problems. We have 2 children, 17 and 16, and any fights we do have are over them. Which is what this was. We have a pool and we had a large amount of people here this weekend to celebrate my daughter's sweet 16. Most of the guests were teenage girls/boys, but family and friends of me and my husband's came too. One of these friends was my husband's best friend, 45, and girlfriend, 32. We will call him H. I've never been too extremely fond of him or the age gap between him and his girlfriend. But alas, our children do consider and call him their uncle. I'm also close enough to his girlfriend to consider her a close friend. Since all my daughter's friends were all having big sweet 16 parties, she wanted one too. So the pool was all decorated and so was the inside and outside. And per her request, she was the only one at the party in a red bathing suit so she would stand out. The party was going great until I was in the laundry room grabbing stuff when I overheard H talking in the room over. Most likely on his phone. He was saying how my daughter was hotter than the girls he'd known as a teen, and he kind of wished she was turning 18 not 16. That any boy who effed her would be doing a service to God, and she looked too good in that red bathing suit. I stopped, not immediately jumping to action. I was confused. This is a man my children grew up with, who babysitted them, stayed many nights over at our house, talking about my daughter in a way no one should talk about a child. I marched outside and dragged my husband into the house to the room H was in. I'll admit, I yelled and told H he wasn't allowed in my house or around any of our family again, especially our daughter, and to leave immediately, before telling my husband anything. H got red in the face and cussed at me and my husband for eavesdropping. I screamed at H to tell my husband what he was saying in my house about my daughter. H got even more mad before storming out and leaving in his girlfriend's car, without his girlfriend. My husband was getting irritated and demanded to know what happened, so I took a second to calm down before telling him. He told me we would deal with it later and just let our daughter have a great rest of the party. I agreed and we rejoined that party, even though we got a few looks. H's girlfriend came up to me towards the end asking why H was spamming her phone, telling her that I was a B-word, jerk, basically all the derogatory terms you can think, even going as far to say I was an immoral woman just like my immoral daughter. I was extremely appalled and dragged her over to my husband, who gave me an exasperated look. He told me to let it die for just a bit and he will talk to H after the party. That was yesterday afternoon and my husband just recently came home after meeting up with H and staying the night. He said I was overreacting, that H wasn't even talking about our daughter, that I shouldn't have acted the way I did all day and I was connecting dots that weren't supposed to be connected. I was upset and told him how he mentioned her red bathing suit, which again, she was the only one wearing at the party, and even if it wasn't our daughter he was talking about, he's still talking about a 16-year-old in an inappropriate way. We argued for a long time before eventually he left again, saying he was going to drive to blow off steam. Now I'm in the bathroom shaking and crying. How am I supposed to just sit back and allow this creep near any of my children? I love my husband and I think he's just been blinded by his loyalty to his friend. Coming out soon.
My husband's best friend sexualized our daughter at her sweet 16, and my husband continues to defend him. Please help. After my husband's best friend, H, said that my 16-year-old daughter looked attractive in her red bathing suit, he left embarrassed after I confronted him. My husband talked to H and told me that I was overreacting because H wasn't even talking about our daughter, even though I heard him. My husband took a drive to blow off steam and still isn't back. I have a suspicion he might be out with H because I called H's girlfriend, S, to tell her everything. She told me he left that morning and hasn't been home since. I'm going to swing by her apartment and she's gonna stay over here for a few nights because she said she can't stand to see H as much as I can. I've told my eldest son and he acted the way my husband should have. He's angry and ready to hop in the car and find both H and my husband. I feel bad involving him, but I wanted to give him context to ask if H has ever done anything to him. I told them to be completely honest and that anything he might have done is never their fault. My eldest son told me that H never did anything to him. He noticed some behavior which was always strange, but he blamed it on just being weird. So here are my plans. H isn't going to be allowed near my kids. Ever. This is a fine line if I decide to stay with my husband, and if he tries to cross it, then he will be the next one to go. I'm also going to get a restraining order on H just in case. I'm going to tell my husband he isn't allowed home or allowed to talk to my kids. This is until I also talk to my daughter about H, and me and him have a talk in a public space with a friend there to mediate. Anything he needs until then can be brought to him by his sister. Me and S are going to go through my husband's stuff and whatever she can grab from her in H's apartment. We're looking for any CP or things that are suspicious. We're going to do all of this either tomorrow or the next day. I'll keep you all updated. Coming out soon. My husband's best friend sexualized our daughter at her sweet 16, and my husband continues to defend him. Please help. A lot has happened today. I'm not getting a divorce with my husband at the moment. Though, if anything sketchy happens or something I see that crosses a line, that notion may change. So today I had a very long talk with my daughter. I told her what happened, thought I spared a few details and simply said that H had been saying inappropriate things. I told her that whatever happens going forward, it's not her fault. It's the child lover mind of someone we trusted. I asked her if he, or anyone, had done anything to any of her, and if they had, that I wouldn't be angry at her, and would be proud she spoke up. My daughter said he would sometimes get too close, put his arm around her shoulders, but nothing that ever made her alarm bells go off in her head. I reiterated to her that she was not to blame for what happened and it's all on H. We hugged and I held her as she cried for a bit. Then around lunchtime my husband came home. I never did go through with telling him to stay away, and he was basically sobbing at my feet outside our front door. He told me he was so confused and angry about what happened, that he was convinced his best friend wasn't like that. That he had been drinking last night after he left and fell into a bit of self-hatred. He wasn't with H though, but he had been texting with him that night. I asked him why he never stood up for me and my daughter, why he stayed the night with H. He said I was making a scene at our daughter's birthday party and didn't want to ruin the day for her, and he stayed the night because it was too late anyways by the time he stopped talking with H. I hate this apology though, it felt fake, like he was minimizing my pain and maximizing his. I'm not sure. He went silent when he saw S at the house though. I told him that she was staying a few nights. I didn't give him much of an explanation. Later when I started to make dinner he came up behind me and hugged me. I pushed him back, told him that I didn't want any physical touch with him anytime soon. He got angry, telling me that it was over now, that he apologized and promised to stand up for us in the future. I told him that he has to make up for what he did in the past first, that he needs to talk with our daughter. He went to go sulk somewhere and I haven't really seen much of him since. Thank you to everyone who's given me advice and for the misogynists who keep telling me to take a step back and breathe, that my husband is being logical and I am being emotional. Scroll up 3 paragraphs to where he was blubbering on our doorstep.
I'm supposed to get married to my fiance in 2 days, and I don't know if I should call it off. I'll try to make this short while I cry of sadness. I've been dating this guy since June of 2022, and in September of that same year, he asked me to be his girlfriend, and this past April, he asked me to marry him. So we've been engaged since then, and he came to Hawaii with his mom and dad, and with my mom and dad, my sister, and best friend. 90% of the time, he's a calm person. He opens the door of the car for me, kisses me every morning and every night. He's a gentleman and a very loyal and honest person. The other 10%, when we fight, he insults me. Fake, know-it-all, psycho, piece of shit, you don't give a shit about me, this relationship is a joke, and etc. Yesterday was our first day in Hawaii, and in 2 different occasions, his behavior in front of everyone in the table was intense and out of line. He started yelling just because we disagreed that not all Italians hate Americans. I'm from South America, and so it's my family, and he's from the US, but we all currently live in the US. And then at some point, my sister's boyfriend was like, it's always greener on the other side. And he started getting very passionate and saying, nope, it's not always greener. You are mistaken. Anyway, the whole conversation in the table was uncomfortable because he was way too intense. Even his mom told him to calm down. Then we went to the car and I asked him nicely to please chill and that his attitude made me uncomfortable. He started yelling at me saying I'm dramatic and overreacting because that's his personality. A couple of people from the resort asked me if I was okay after they saw the whole scene. Because by the way, he doesn't care about making scenes anywhere we are. He will yell and raise his voice whenever we are in public anytime we get into an argument. Anyways, that went away and he apologized to my sister's boyfriend and told him that's usually how he speaks to all of his friends. That is not an apology. After that, we were all at the beach, my part of the family and him, and his mom and dad were at the grocery store. We didn't check in our rooms yet because the room wasn't ready, but after hanging out at the beach for like an hour, he was ready to go, and I said, but your mom isn't here yet, we can chill a little longer. He got all stressed out and said he wanted to go to the room and started getting ready to go to Waikiki downtown and that everyone should do that. He was very pushy and also yelled again and got intense with the group and made us all leave and change so we can go to downtown. I told him when we were alone that he was being rude and pushy again and that he should apologize. After convincing him for a while that he was being rude out there, he texted my sister and her boyfriend again saying, sorry I was all intense. Every time during this time of the year when my birthday is coming, I get emotional because I remember my sister, and that's not an excuse, but I'm just not in the best place. By the way, he lost his sister 6 years ago. He was 23 and his sister was 10. This isn't the first time he yells and behaves incorrectly and uses his sister as the motive for it. Then we were in the car with my mom and he wanted to apologize to my mom too, and this is where shit got ugly. He apologized to my mom and says how he wishes his sister was here in these important moments and that he is sorry for everything from today. And then my mom says, okay, your apologies are accepted, but please don't use your sister as an excuse. Respect her memory. She also said the way she respects my dad's memory is by always trying to be happy around the people she loves, because she knows he wouldn't want to see her cry every day or yell at us or anything like that. So that's the way she deals with my father's death. Then my fiance said, you don't know anything about my sister or myself and I can get to feel however I want. Things kept getting heated and more yelling started happening and he started yelling very loudly. Don't talk about my sister, you don't know shit. Started giving my mom crazy eyes and pointing at her, completely disrespected somebody that's in her 60s. Then my mom just left the car, and after an hour of me trying to explain to my fiance that what he did was wrong, he said, okay, I will apologize to her. Then I call my mom and she's crying and she's like, I'm sorry, I don't want his apologies. This went too far. He also insulted me multiple times. I told my fiance, even if my mom was wrong, you could have just talked to her instead of started yelling and cursing at her. My wedding is supposed to be 2 days here in Hawaii, and my mom was supposed to give us the rings. This morning, she texted me saying that she loves me and that I can do whatever I decided to do, but she won't give me the rings and won't accept his apologies, and if I do marry him, she will stand there to support me. But after that, when we go back home, she won't be close to him and will try to avoid talking to him from now on because her perspectives of him has changed completely. I truly don't know what to do. I need an outsider's perspective. Should I marry this man? She has a small update. She goes, update. I've left the room and I'm now with my mom and my sister. Oh, what? She has another update. I canceled the wedding. I apologized to my mom for letting him speak to her like that. Even though I was telling him to stop, I could have been more serious about it. His mom understands my position and respects my decision. I'm really sad, but somehow I feel relief as well. I will try to enjoy the rest of this trip with my family and try to get past this. My mom is also relieved that I made this decision. My whole family is. This man needs therapy. He has a lot of grief that he needs to compartmentalize.
My girlfriend met my wife today. I couldn't be happier. I, 32M, am a widow. My wife passed away from pancreatic cancer 5 years ago. She was forced to leave behind our 2 kids, R, 10M, and H, 7M. My wife was the absolute light of my life. We were high school sweethearts, went to the same college, and got married after graduation. We were inseparable. Every day I fell more in love with her. It was like my heart was living outside my body. When she passed, the amount of pain I was in was indescribable. I prayed to go to sleep and not wake up just so I could see her one last time. I contemplated meeting her, but every time I was ready, my kids would look at me. They had her face, her personality, her DNA. I couldn't leave them behind. They were all I had left of her. It took years before I was able to function normally again. I even quit my job and lived off of savings and her life insurance for about a year. I was half the dad I used to be and only a fraction of my former self. 2 years after her passing, I decided enough was enough and I kicked myself into gear. I found a job in a different city, packed my kids up, and we moved. Life was hard, but I kept chugging along and eventually I found some joy. A year after moving, I took a business trip to NY where I met my current girlfriend, Elle. While I acknowledged there was chemistry, I told her I was already married and she understood. However, a few months later I had to go back to NY where we met up again. I let my guard down for the first time around her. Before I knew it, she was transferring to my work branch and moving to my city. I fell in love with her and asked her out a year ago next month. My kids adore her and though she reminded them she will never take their mom's place, they lovingly call her Mama L. Today was the anniversary of my wife's passing, an extremely hard day for all of us. This morning I walked into the living room to find Elle and my kids waiting for me. The kids were dressed in their church clothes with goofy smiles on their faces and bouquets in hand. Apparently, Elle came up with the idea of a picnic at my wife's grave, an idea that the boys loved as they enjoy going to see their mom. While I was sleeping they prepared food and flowers, then insisted on wearing their best clothes. I'll admit that I cried at the sight of them. I don't know how I got this lucky twice in a row. I wanted my wife to meet this amazing woman, so I asked Elle to come along and she did. The day that I dread every year turned out to be a humbling reminder of the reason why I stayed on this planet. To my lovely wife, you can never be replaced, but takes care of the family like you would, and I think you'd be glad she's here to do so. Thank you for sending her to me. I found something nasty in my daughter's closet, and I don't know how to react. A little context on who my daughter is: she's popular in school, plays on the varsity soccer team as a junior, and was top of her class last year. Today while cleaning the house I smelled something putrid coming from my daughter's room, so I decided to investigate it. The smell was coming from her closet, and when I opened the door and saw what the smell was coming from, I found something that completely mystified me: a sheltered white dad in his 40s. In my daughter's closet, hidden behind her clothes, was an absolutely disgusting mason jar with a tow truck mater figurine in it, which is a character from the movie Cars, her favorite movie as a kid, covered in what appeared to be 2 years of menstrual blood and used tampons. But that's not even the worst of it. Behind the jar was a poster made up of drawings of Mater, and get this, another female tow truck who I assumed to be my daughter. In the depictions of both tow trucks, my daughter and Mater had ultra-realistic human genitalia drawn on them, and they were, you know whating. I was flabbergasted. I knew this was a popular thing on sites like 4chan, but I never expected my daughter of all people to have something like this. Me and my boys would oogle over pictures of Jessica Rabbit from Space Jam back in the day. But I didn't think the popular girls would be into that type of stuff too, and to this extent. Let me know if everyone is really into this type of thing, but I get the sense this is unusual. I'm afraid of talking to my wife about this, as we're a fundamentalist Catholic family, and I don't want her to go searching for an exorcism for something that might just be normal harmless teen stuff. She's coming back from school soon and I'm pretty sure she'll realize I've been snooping around. Please give this clueless old head dad some pointers. Is this common among this new generation of young? Edit. Not sure why people are saying this copypasta is going to go crazy. I'd appreciate it if you guys could give me some serious advice. My girlfriend made me want to marry her by turning me into a morning person. So I, 21M, moved in with my girlfriend, 20F, of 2 years about 3 months ago. Now I am in no way a morning person, and dread waking up any time earlier than 12 to 1 if I can help it. My girlfriend, R, and I both work 9 to 5 mf. I like having the same schedule as her, but I hated waking up at 7 to 8 every day, so before I moved in with her I normally spent my weekends sleeping until 2 to 3. My girlfriend is also not a morning person and has had a hard time waking up in the morning most of her life until she started working at her current job. She still hates it, but she says it's easier than it used to be. The first week after I moved in she would wake up after about 3 alarms where it would take me about 7 or 8 snoozes to wake up, but by the time I woke up she had already showered and made coffee. Then the weekend rolls around and Saturday morning R gets up at around 10 and I was half awake for long enough to check my phone before going back to sleep. I woke up again around 11 because Mother Nature was calling and heard her singing. Because I was still asleep she was singing quietly so she wouldn't wake me. I came out of the room and saw her playing Minecraft with one earbud in and the house smelled like coffee. She just looked up, smiled, said good morning and then went back to playing. Next morning same thing, I was more conscious this time because I recognized her voice in my sleep and was semi-awake.